Welcome to AT&T's next-generation network-based firewall self-service portal, otherwise known as the NBFW portal. This new portal incorporates several advances, including easier navigation, additional self-service features, and a streamlined user interface. This video serves as a quick reference tool to help you proactively protect your business. Topics include how to access the NBFW portal, use some of the portal's most commonly requested capabilities, manage policies and objects, apply rules, and make changes to your firewall configuration. Let's get started. The NBFW self-service application can be accessed from the AT&T Security Center through the AT&T Business Direct portal via the following steps. 1. Log in to AT&T Business Direct. https://www.businessdirect.att.com. 2. Click on Manage Your Network Security. This brings up the AT&T Threat Manager portal. From the AT&T Threat Manager portal, select the Services tab and select Network-Based Firewall to navigate to the NBFW self-service portal and manage your network-based firewall service. The main screen is divided into two tabs, the Policy tab and the Objects tab. Let's look at the Policy tab first. The left side lists the devices or virtual domains, often referred to as VDOMs, while the right side shows the actual policy. Note that you should only see the services you have contracted for. The NBFW portal contains powerful capabilities, enabling you to accomplish the following tasks. View and download company security policy and associated profiles. Manage identity-based policy rules and user groups. Manage policy objects, such as addresses and address groups, services and service groups, virtual IPs and virtual IP groups, and IP pools defined in the policy. Manage web filtering profiles, which control traffic to various website URLs using predefined and customer-defined categories. Manage data loss prevention sensors and file filters. Manage malware scanning profiles, which provide malware scanning and file filtering of network traffic. It's important to remember that most actions on the self-service portal are done using right clicks. For example, if we want to view this policy and add a new rule, we'll right-click with the mouse over the table and click Create New. This allows us to create a new rule. There are a couple of key steps to creating a new rule. Let's try to create one from the North interface and source address. Let's take this host 1234, which we've created for the example. The outgoing interface will always be the South interface, with an additional host as the destination. The schedule is always. We can select from the list of defined schedules. Note how we'll review to define a schedule later in this video. Select the service. In this case, we'll choose All TCP. We want to allow this kind of traffic, so we click Accept. When we scroll down, we see additional options. We have NAT options and logging options. We can select if we want to log all sessions or not log at all. Of most importance are the security profiles. If we select the Security Profiles checkbox, then we're able to select which profiles we want to apply to this new rule. For example, if we want our antivirus profile, the default one, to be applied, we can select it. For web filtering, these types of filters are here. All types of profiles are available, and we can select which ones we want to apply. We can select a specific profile for each type. Once we're done, we see that there are additional options. We can click Save, and this rule will be added to the policy. Now, this operation only adds it to Management Console. If we want to apply it to the device, then we need to install it. That's done here through the sub-tab called Installation. We can see that this current policy has been modified. Again, we right-click to see the installation option. When we click Installation, it reinstalls the packages, which will apply our new rule. This takes approximately 30 seconds to complete. Now, we see it will refresh when we go back to the policy. We can see the new rule here that's already installed on the device. It's now in effect, allowing traffic for all TCP from host 1234 to 5678. We can also modify an existing rule by hovering over it with the mouse, right-clicking, and then clicking Edit. In addition, we can choose to delete a rule, move it up or down in the hierarchy, enable or disable it. All the actions on a rule are done through the right-click menu. This is an important thing to remember when using the NBFW self-service portal. We'll now edit a rule by taking the source address and adding one of the demo hosts. Now that it's been added, we can save it. When we select Save, our change is recorded into the NBFW Central Management Platform. It's important to note that the change shows up but is not yet in effect. If we want the change to take effect, we need to go back to the Installation tab and then click Install. In fact, changes we create only go into effect on the device once it's installed. We can also view the history of installations in the audit icon here. When clicked, the icon shows that we've done an edit policy operation. It also tells us exactly what and when it's been edited. As expected, this edit is also documented automatically as an MACD ticket in the background. We'll now look at the second tab, which is the Objects tab. This is where we can see a list of network objects and can also define new objects. We'll leverage the two hosts that we previously defined for use in our demo rule and in defining another rule. Again, the operation is done through the right-click on the mouse. So, we right-click to create a new address. We'll use the name host_3456. We can choose any naming convention that we desire. The IP will be 3456, and we can apply it to a specific interface or to any interface of our choosing, along with applying tags. We don't yet have any tags defined. We therefore click Save. The new host is now available for use in any new policy edits that we want to make on the policy. There are a number of other items available here, including creation of a schedule. As we've seen, there are two currently defined schedules. One schedule is Always, which occurs on all days, throughout all hours of the day. The other schedule is Office Hours, which are Monday to Friday, 8 o'clock a.m. to 5 o'clock p.m. We can change those parameters or create a new one. Let's create a new schedule. We'll choose Tuesdays, starting midnight until a minute to midnight. This will be in effect every Tuesday, given it's a recurring type of schedule. We can now apply this to a rule in our policy. Continuing on, we see services that we're able to define. Here, we have a list of existing services that can be expanded to include new services by right-clicking. It could be either a new service or a new service group. Let's edit an existing service as an example. We'll take All TCP and edit it. We can see that it's been defined as TCP protocol only, and from one port all the way to port 65,535. We can edit this, add it to a specific category, and modify the port range. We apply the edit by simply clicking Save. The next area we can explore is virtual IPs. We start with the list of the virtual IPs that we've defined. We can expand the new number of virtual IPs by creating new ones via right-clicking on the list and selecting Create New. We're able to pick between IP4 virtual IP groups, and IP pools. Let's take a closer look at an example of a virtual IP. We can give it a name, Sample VIP, assign it to a specific interface, assign an external IP, and then map the IP addresses. Again, we can right-click on an existing virtual IP and click Edit, which allows us to edit the existing entry. Now it's on to security profiles. The security profiles allow us to define and edit any of the security profile types we have on the server. We see that antivirus has predefined profiles, which we can add to by right-clicking and editing or creating a new one. These can all be applied to rules in the policy. We simply change any of the settings and then click Save to apply. We can also create a new profile and apply it to an existing rule. We have antivirus, application sensors, data leak prevention sensors, and IPS sensors. Here is that process in action. We start by going to Web Filter Profiles and selecting the default one. We can then edit it and create additional entries to our black and white lists. Notice that we've taken Facebook.com and added it with a block action, which means it will block Facebook.com for any rule using the default web filtering profile. Conversely, we've allowed LinkedIn.com. By using the pre-existing web filtering categories, we can opt to use everything and apply that to our default profile. We simply right-click and choose Create New to add URLs to a whitelist or blacklist. As a final example, we type www.att.com and the action will be Allow. Once enabled and saved, the att.com URL is allowed through the default web filter profile. From a policy perspective, it's fairly easy to use policies when we want to apply them to a rule. For an existing policy, we edit it and then scroll down to Security Profiles. We then view the rule, scroll down to Security Profiles, and apply the default web filter. In this case, it's already applied, but we can choose to change it to a different setting when needed. Once again, any changes that we apply are only saved to the management console after we save them to the device using the installation option. There are a number of other helpful features embedded in the NBFW portal that should be highlighted. One great feature is the ability to select the columns for displaying in the Policy tab. Here are the 2 steps. 1. Select the Column Settings button to display the column settings form. 2. Select the columns we want to display, clear the columns that we want to hide, and select Apply. The policy information is refreshed every hour from the platform's centralized management device. We can also refresh the data on demand by selecting the Refresh button. It's important to note the system can save only one revision of the current policy and object data. The new revision overwrites the existing backup if one exists. However, we can create and restore policy revisions. Select the Revision Backup button to open the Revision Backup window. To restore the backup, right-click the entry and select Restore. If we've been granted write access to our policies, we can add, edit, delete, enable, disable, and change the order of the policies. If we're not granted write access, we'll see a warning message confirming we can view the data in the policy page, but we cannot edit it. When adding or editing a policy, we can enable Security Profiles by clicking the Security Profiles checkbox in the pop-up window. This will display a list of the security policy types which can be enabled: antivirus, web filter, etc. Click on the checkbox next to each security policy type to enable it, and then select the relevant value from the drop-down list for that security policy type, or leave the default value if applicable. Click Save to save the changes. The network-based firewall self-service portal is full of powerful capabilities. In this video, we focused on the Policy and Objects tabs. We saw that the Policy tab allows us to view and modify any rule in the policy. We can also install changes, watch a review of what's been updated, and refer to an audit log to see a change history. In the Objects tab, we can control all types of objects related to the firewall, from address, objects, and schedules, to the more advanced setting of security profiles. Be sure to download the complete network-based firewall portal user guide from the Threat Manager portal as a supplement to this video. Thanks for watching. Please check out www.att.com/security and see what AT&T Cybersecurity can do for you.